The Indian government is talking a little bit about the issue of mandatory pledging the allegiance, or at least taking part in the national anthem when you're going to a movie theater. So apparently recently politicians were concerned that India is losing some of its national identity. They're worried that people aren't, patriotic enough and they aren't respecting the anthem enough. So as a result, India's Supreme Court announced in December that all cinemas would have to play the national anthem before screenings and that citizens would have to stand up in respect for the duration. Now that led to a lot of drama because they didn't really clarify what the exceptions would be. And remember, there are exceptions to every rule. So what happens if you are a disabled person who literally cannot stand, and also are people supposed to turn one another in? It turned out that some citizens who would witness other citizens not standing would engage in vigilante justice, and that led to a lot of drama. And then also, do people have to sing along with the anthem? They didn't clarify any of this. So it turned out that the court had to revisit this issue and clarify things. The government has also been forced to clarify how the law should apply to people unable to stand due to injury or disability, ordering that instead, they should try not to move and maintain the maximum possible alertness physically.
Oh, Jesus Christ, man. Really? Okay, now I think that they misunderstand the concept of respect.
Yeah.
When you demand respect and you make it mandatory, it is not a respect that you have earned. And hence, by definition, is people not respecting you, but simply following the orders that you gave them because they must, because of the law that you passed. Mm-hmm. So it's not like when they stand up under penalty of law on to your anthem that they think, man, I really respect this anthem. They think, no, I'm going to go to prison or somebody in this theater is going to beat me up if I don't stand up for this anthem. And that is the kind of propaganda and nationalism that is deeply annoying. Now, I'm going to tell you a super dorky story about myself. Okay, so let's have fun. Mm-hmm. I grew up in Turkey till I was 8. And in Turkey, when I was growing up, I'm so old, not only did they only have one TV channel and one only, it was black and white, and it was not on the whole day. It would come on at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and would go off the air at midnight. That's it. You only had 8 hours of TV.
Wow.
I know, it's amazing.
That is amazing.
And the first thing that they would play, just like here, they're playing it in front of the movies, is they would play the Turkish national anthem. And all the countries do propaganda, right? And we do it here in America, and we stand in the schools and make the kids, oh my God, my 6-year-old son, they taught him every American, song about, the national anthem and Star Spangled Banner and all of them, and he could recite the Pledge of Allegiance, and they got him all like, oh, yes, right? Mm-hmm. Which I'm kind of a goofy, patriotic guy anyway, so I don't mind, right? But okay, back to Turkey. Mm-hmm. Every time that the Turkish national anthem came on, I would stand up because I'm a little kid, right?
Yeah.
And so I was like, na, 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 na. So when I went back in the summers after I moved here, I would still do the same thing because I thought that's what everybody did, right?
Yeah.
And my friend Boris, he didn't have the heart to tell me. He told me decades later, he's like, it was the most deeply embarrassing thing I've ever seen. We'd be among friends and you would stand up and I'd be like, oh no, what? Oh, please sit down. Don't do that. Don't do that. You're such a giant dork.
Oh, it's so good. Bora is one of my favorite people. That's
Mine
so
too.
Funny. Yeah.
So anyway, look, and that didn't actually make me more patriotic. It's just ritual and when you have to force people to like you, they don't actually like you.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. And look, I mean, to draw some comparisons between India and the United States, here in the U.S., you're not forced by law to stand during the national anthem, but there is a little bit of that vigilantism. Is that a word?
Peer pressure.
Peer pressure, yeah, like that peer pressure to stand up and show respect, to the point where, questionable blondes who have questionable political opinions will dedicate their entire show to saying questionable things about you if you don't stand for the national anthem. So
I like that idea for a show, questionable blondes. Okay. And when you said it created some problems because of the differences, I thought you meant differences in movie theaters. And I was like, well, does it matter which movie's playing? I was like, oh, no. I thought maybe you were talking about adult cinemas.
No.
Where to be fair, they are all standing at attention.
Jeez. Okay, but there was a really funny incident. Well, I don't know how funny it was at the time, but there was a Bollywood movie where in the middle of it, as part of the scene, they played the national anthem, and people were like, do I stand? Do I stand?
Will I be arrested if I don't stand?
Yeah, so the clarifications were needed.
India, I love you, but stop being goofy. Let's put some watchers on the wall, investigative journalists to run down the Trump administration and the establishment. You can make that happen. tytnetwork.com/go.